Thank you, Paulo. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Ayala. 9 years ago, at age 47, and at the peak of my corporate career, at the time I was CEO of Ayala Land, I left traditional business to pursue the calling that God had put in my heart when I was a teenager. And people thought that I was nuts to leave my career. I had it all: money, power, accolades. Why walk away from it? My mom in particular thought I was crazy. But what they couldn't see is that as I had climbed the corporate ladder, somehow I was getting further and further away from what God's calling for me was. Instead, I focused on what I had learned at business school. Anyone here went to business school? You're supposed to maximize shareholder value. That means focus on the 20% at the top, definitely not the 20% at the bottom. And as we made difficult decisions, I relied on myself. Prayer never even entered into the equation. And the demands of the job were putting a strain on my most important relationships. And slowly, I was losing my heart to the world, where I was accumulating my treasure. But worst of all, I started to notice that slowly but surely, my children were getting used to our lifestyle and our way of life, and I was guilty of turning their hearts towards mammon and not to God. But fortunately, there was church. Fortunately, I was being discipled by Pastor Joey and then by Pastor Paulo. I was in a men's group. I was reading the Bible more and praying more and rebuilding my relationship with God, who kept reminding me about what He had put in my heart when I was a teenager. So one day, I looked in the mirror and I decided, together with my wife and my children, that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to the ministry that He had called me to, which was to uplift the life of the poor. And I am blessed that my wife and my children believed and trusted in God's plan. I think more than even my trust. I also thought it was crazy. Because God didn't actually explain how to go about this calling. The problem of poverty is enormous. The solutions are complex. And how could one possibly help so many people? But slowly and surely, through His grace, we made progress. Instead of using my gift for problem solving to figure out how to maximize profit, I started to find strategies to maximize impact. 80% of the poor live in rural areas, so we had to go rural. When we got there, we found that 20 million people had no electricity. The electricity grid just didn't reach those remote villages. And without electricity, homes are dark. So villagers use kerosene lamps, which are dirty and dangerous and expensive. Teachers have no sound system and no multimedia. And students can't do their homework at night because there's no light. Without electricity, midwives in birthing centers use candles to deliver babies. And when there are complications, they can't call for help because their cell phones have lost charge. Businesses close in the afternoon, and farmers and fishermen cannot be productive. We realize that without electricity, the rural poor cannot reach their God-given potential. And so this became the focus of our work. So we started looking into how could we possibly electrify these far-flung villages. And God provided the answer. In Genesis, the third sentence of the whole Bible is, "And God said, let there be light, and there was light." So after creating the heavens and the earth, The third thing that he created was the sun, an infinite and reliable source of free and clean energy. Why not just provide a solar panel and a rechargeable battery to each home, school, and shop to power their needs? No need for the grid. We could go gridless, just like telcos went wireless instead of extending the landline. So far-flung homes could have electricity instantly. So God sent us like-minded engineers and donors who helped us to pilot solar technology in homes. Solar lamps like this one here. Solar lamps that could light up a whole room for several days on a single charge, which were waterproof and durable, so they could be used outdoors by farmers and fishermen, which could charge cell phones. This is actually charging my cell phone. And it would be charged by a small solar panel, which could charge it in a single day. But then, how could our poor customers afford these? These cost a few thousand pesos. So God sent us partners from the microfinance industry, partners like CCT, Negros Women for Tomorrow Foundation, Ahon sa Hirap. And we asked them if they would be willing to make solar loans to their clients, and they said yes. And so one of our first customers was a lady named Susan Dimaano. She's from Mindoro, and she bought one of these solar lamps from us using a microfinance loan from our partner card. Immediately, she started saving money because she didn't need to buy as much kerosene. She was also able to save money because she didn't need to charge her cell phone sa bayan, in town, right? She had no electricity, but she had a cell phone. But she had to go to town to charge that, and she had to pay for it. But even better was that her husband said, let me use this for our lanzones trees. See, he had a problem. Every night, fruit bats would come and start eating their lanzones. And so he used the solar light every night to drive away the bats. And you know what? Their harvest improved so much that they were able to make 50,000 pesos more and buy a motorcycle. And her children were able to use this at night to study. Instead of fighting over the one lamp, they had enough light so they could each sit in their place and study. And all of them became honor students. But you know what was best of all? She said that at night, when they were going to go to sleep, she would just be with her husband, and they would read the Bible together. And when they were talking, she could actually see his face. Priceless. The problem is there are 20 million Susanas out there, so how could we possibly reach them? And so then God sent us social entrepreneurs, people who have used enterprise in order to solve the problems of the world. People who have figured out business models so that they could scale up. And so we did that, and we learned that to make solar hubs in this way. And so to fund the hubs, I had to talk to my wife, Missy, who is here today, and we used our savings to get it started. And when that wasn't enough, we sold some of our properties. And at some point, the cash ran out, and so God sent investors, several of them from this church, godly men and women who made kingdom investments to expand his kingdom. And then God sent us people. We have our solaristas. These are our solar missionaries that have to cross rivers and climb mountains and get in bancas to reach the islands, to bring solar to the people that we're trying to help. And so today we have 350,000 people using our systems. We have lit up over 300 schools and clinics. And in July, all of our 7 solar hubs were profitable for the first time. And this will let us expand so that next year we're going to have 15 hubs, and after that, 15 more, and hundreds of hubs over the next few years, so that every single small town in that small island, every villager, every school, every clinic will have the clean energy that God has already provided. So as I end, I hope that my testimony will encourage you to heed Paul's exhortation to Timothy, the one that Paulo put up earlier, to do good, to be rich in good works, and to be generous and willing to share. In my experience, if you're holding back, if any of you are in this position, don't hold back. In my experience, if we obey God's commands, He will be there every step. He will send people to love us, to encourage us, to support us. And while I hope for a reward in heaven, I can testify that I have already found a new life on this earth. And you can too. A life worth living, a life that matters, the the true life that our Heavenly Father has in store for all of us. Thank you very much.